preaching is so important, and the church is, people are constantly complaining about bad preaching in the church. This is one of our big problems. Pope Francis talks about it all the time, but everybody talks about it. People want good preaching, and people expect Jesuits to be very good preachers. They expect every Jesuit to be a good preacher, and whether that's fair or not, it's an expectation, and it's one that I think we need to be attentive to, because people want to hear a word that will rouse them, to quote the biblical phrase. They want to hear a consoling word. And so it's really important to pay attention to it. And I would give the advice that Laínez gives here, rather than to stand on my own soapbox. I'll give his perspective, which is honestly, the absolute number one thing that we can do to become good preachers is to be people of prayer. When we don't privilege that relationship with God, we easily lose sight of the fact that we're always preaching good news. If we don't know the goodness of God in a personal way, then how can we communicate that to other people? And so if my prayer becomes just how I prepare for my homily, and I'm not actually just talking to the Lord about my problems and meditating on the Word and meditating on God's presence in my life, then my preaching is going to be worse and worse, even if I'm praying to prepare my homily. So one is just to continue. The spiritual life is so important for the life of a preacher. And the second thing is, to pay attention to the people and the techniques that reach people. I would say one of the great things in formation is you get experience of a lot of preachers. And I would say, even when you're not in homiletics classes, pay attention to why you like and don't like what you hear in preaching. Pay attention to what is persuasive, what is good teaching for you, what is it that leads you to the delight of the gospel, to use Laínez's thing. Pay attention to these things and think, well, how can I model that in the way that I preach, and just be attentive to it, because it's so important.